Welcome to the Writer's Corner live show, the weekly water cooler for all. Introducing a lineup of international award-winning and talented indie authors, only on the Writer's Corner live show.
In today's episode of the Writer's Corner live show, we take a look at a journey from humble beginnings to financial empowerment. With over 15 years of expertise in the industry, our guest will unveil the keys to unlocking financial success in her books, MoneyWise, Mabel's Bursting Bank, and Make Money Your Thing with Kalee Boisvert. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Writer's Corner live show, the weekly water cooler for authors and readers. Join us for 30 minutes of insightful conversation with some of the biggest names in the industry. We feature award-winning authors, New York Times and USA Today bestsellers, and even international indie sensations. Tune in and join our family-friendly community only on the Writer's Corner live show.
Well, if you are just joining us, welcome to the Writer's Corner live show. We have been live for over 5 years. Oh my gosh, it's been an amazing journey. If you're not following us, make sure you do so you can get notified the next time we go live. I am Mary Elizabeth Jackson, your hostess, and I'm an author from Nashville, Tennessee in the USA. Today's show, we talked to Kalee Boisvert. Our live stream is made possible by Creative Edge, StreamYard, and Be Live Media. Our guest today is Kalee Boisvert. Her 15-year journey in finance began with, listen to my words today, in her childhood, a desire to alleviate her single-parent household financial struggles. Determined to defy her circumstances, she embarked on her own path to financial literacy. Kalee has authored 2 impactful books. One is MoneyWise, Mabel's Bursting Bank. It's a children's book imparting money wisdom, and Make Money Your Thing, a nonfiction work empowering individuals in their financial lives. Her journey is a testament to resilience and a guiding light towards financial liberation. Let's welcome her to the show. So Kalee, I'm going to welcome you to the show, girl. And thank you so much for being here. And I played your video. I played your intro video a few seconds early. Sorry, but you know that we are just so excited to have you here. So
thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to just dive right in and ask you, and I know a little bit here about what motivated you, but, can you tell everybody who doesn't know you what motivated you to delve into the world of financial literacy through your writing, and how the journey has transformed you personally?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in a single parent household. I was raised by my mom, who did a fabulous job raising my sister and I. But money really showed up for her as a source of like stress and struggle. And she worked really hard. But it's just, she didn't have like an education prior to having us, things like that. So it was difficult for her. She worked a lot of minimum wage paying jobs and whatnot. So growing up and seeing that stress that it caused my mom, it intrigued me because I'm, someone who's very much like a quiet introvert, always observing. And I noticed that people around us didn't seem to be plagued by like that same scarcity, that I had friends that were getting the things, that I wanted, but my mom said we couldn't afford. So for me, it became almost more of like a math problem. So I loved math. Like I have an older sister and she would always let me do her math assignments because I found so much joy in doing math. And so it was like, okay, this money thing, it's a numbers thing. And just like math, maybe I can figure it out and hopefully create some sort of change from that. So it's just from that point on, I kind of went on this journey to figure everything out that I could about money, and was really inspired to like start saving my own money on one occasion when I was like begging my mom for a Super Nintendo. And she said, no, instead of saying the usual, like, no, you can't have that, we can't afford that, she said, well, if you want one so bad, go buy it yourself. And that moment to me also was like a life-changing moment of like, whoa, because she didn't say no. And as a kid, when it's not a no, it's a yes. And so I went on this mission to make my own money, to save my own money, buy that Super Nintendo. I did it. It was the most amazing feeling. And that was just, like financial goal number one. And it just kept going from there. I saved up and I bought my own dog. And then when I was 16, my own car. And then when I was at university stage, I paid for my own way through university without any student loans. And so it was this like, again, it started from a Super Nintendo and something, so like minor, I guess, as a kid, but it's almost like these habits and these values and lessons we learn early on. So I wanted to, again, being fascinated by numbers, money, I wanted to share that with more people, and hopefully support women so they didn't have to go through what my mom went through, what I witnessed her go through when we were kids. And so I went into the finance industry. I really leaned heavily into working with specifically women. And that's what I've been doing ever since. And then the ideas for the book was just when COVID hit and we kind of had to go inside and not have that same ability to like reach an audience and crowd, or it felt like at the time, because I was doing a lot of speaking events and things like that. I decided to write the books because I was like, how can I, continue to share this message and reach a wider audience? Because I knew that women were hungry for more, that they wanted to know this stuff from the presentations I was doing, and women were showing up and more were coming each week when I was doing these presentations in person. So that's when I started writing the book. So I wrote Make Money Your Thing, which is a nonfiction novel for women designed to build confidence, because I believe that's sort of the missing piece when it comes to women and finances. And when you get a little bit of a confidence boost, you're ready to take action and do the things. And then I also wrote a kid's picture book about a little girl learning about money and the power of saving, kind of like my own early start. And it's called MoneyWise, Mabel's Bursting Bank. So I think, that financial literacy journey can start really early. And it was really impactful for me on my journey. So I hope that parents can do the same and kind of share that with their children through this book.
Yes, through both of them. Okay, so you did give us a little sneak peek. What are some of the most intriguing anecdotes or pieces of advice from your nonfiction Make Money Your Thing book for women?
Yeah. So obviously, like, again, I take you on this journey of building confidence, but the beginning I start with is all about like mindset and money beliefs. And I call it like your money baggage, and kind of, looking through, what is that, and almost getting rid of some of it, because a lot of it I think has to go. So I think that's a really powerful piece. It starts the book, and I think it lays the foundation of our relationship with money. Women have some work to do on the relationship piece with money. So, by writing this book, calling it Make Money Your Thing, it was sort of a response to when women say things like, numbers aren't my thing, math isn't my thing, I'm not good with these topics, or I'm not good with money, money isn't my thing. Well, let's make it your thing. And just simply by changing what we're saying in the messaging is really powerful. So that mindset piece. So that's like what I take readers through in the beginning of the book, is doing some work, inner work, on what we believe about money. Because again, a lot of the beliefs we have, we're taking from our childhood or from early years when we were learning about money. Again, like I grew up in a single parent family. Money was really scarce. So there was a lot of beliefs of like, I never have enough, or money never stays, or I can't save money. And I personally had to do a lot of work with changing those and getting rid of those. Because if I want to build wealth and meet my financial goals that I have, I can't be holding on to those beliefs. Like they just energetically don't work together, right? So I had to do a lot of the inner work to get rid of those. And an activity that you can do, like a quick activity that anyone can do to do some work on that, is write down all your money beliefs that you hold, and then actually look at them and decide, is this true? Because I would say the majority of the statements and the things you believe about money are probably not true. Like, I was on a podcast, and a woman was saying one of the beliefs she had was like, money is the root of all evil. That's something she was taught. And I'm like, that's terrible, right? Like, it's not
Yeah.
the root of all evil. Or, you know, people with lots of money are greedy. Like, that's not a true statement. There might be some people with money that are greedy, but there's also the other side of that, very generous people. So again, we write down the beliefs, you know, is it even true? And then when we realize most of them aren't true, we get to now consciously choose, what beliefs do you want to have about money? And that's a really empowering exercise, because again, it changes that mindset, the perspective. And from there, I feel like you're in a much better open place to say, okay, you know, yes, I'm ready to do this stuff. I'm ready to start taking action with my money. Yeah, you'll find yourself just a little bit eager to do the things, I think, or I hope. So that's one of the activities in the book that I think is really powerful, that all women can do, and you could do right now as you're listening to this.
Oh yeah,
Or
absolutely.
after.
And you know, and I read yesterday, I was reading it to my husband, that it will take, and I don't even know who wrote the article. I don't even remember like what it was on that I read it, but it said that it's going to take 2.5 generations for women to catch up to men being paid the same. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, that is terrible. And you know, I come from the same thing, single family home, mom raising us, and having those messages coming in, you know, that there's something wrong. We have less than, you know, always wanting, but that everyone else have, but you can't because there's not enough. So I can totally relate to what you're saying. In your children's book, MoneyWise, Mabel's Bursting Bank, you know, can you give us any glimpses into the lessons and how it engages young readers?
Yeah. So it's great for ages, I would say, like 3 to 7-ish, because it is a picture book. But basically, Mabel, very, you know, fabulously, she fills up her piggy bank, and it's, you know, she gets all excited and she's like, I'm a millionaire, and thinking of all these ways she can just spend it right away on things like, you know, like little junky toys and candy, the things all our children seem to fall for when it comes to spending money. And then her mom's like, well, you know, it doesn't have to burn a hole in your pocket. Like, you don't have to spend it right away. And she's like, well, what do you do with your money, mom? And then her mom shares that she puts it in a bank account, and you can keep even more money there, right? More than just what fits in piggy bank. And so when she learns about that, she decides that she wants to open her own bank account and save for some bigger things that she has in mind. And so they go to the bank, and she gets to like talk to the banker and learn about interest even. So how the bank is going to, you know, actually pay her money pay her on her money while it's there, and it grows even more because of that. And so she gets really excited and excited to save money. And leaving, she starts to, like, as she's leaving the bank, she starts to just dream of like really big ideas of what she's going to do, and what she's going to save her money for, and all the little tasks that she can do right now to save up money. So it's a fun conversation starter with kids. I've sent out early copies to some clients, and they've said, like, afterwards their kids talk about, you know, one said her son's going to start saving up for his own snorkeling gear, she said, was what he came out with. And other ones are saying, you know, they have their own piggy banks and they're trying to fill up their piggy banks now. So it's so cute to hear this feedback from actual readers already. And again, it's just like, kids are in such a wonderful place to have these conversations, because it's still like very open. Again, when I talked about the mindset, kids are in a really good mindset. They haven't, you know, taken on some of these negative beliefs about money, right? We grow up and we're like, oh, the bills and the this, and it just piles on, and it almost becomes, from that, it can be easily become quite negative. But they're still in a really like open place to the possibilities, and we can set them up for success by just having these conversations, being open to have conversations with our kids about money, and just yeah, it's a communication thing. Like, I think it sparks like conversation of, what are you saving your money for? What are some things, you hope to buy one day? Or I had the conversations with my daughter, like I was writing it when she was around 5 because she was showing signs of being like awful with money, which I'm sure I'm sure all kids are, right? Because
Yeah.
they need some training or some guidance, but, it's fun, like, we were doing, like, vision boards, me and my daughter together, and at the
Mm.
time, she was, like, 5, and she had, like, a castle and a giraffe, and I was like, "Whoa, those are some really big purchases you have on there, like, what kinda job do you think you'll be working?" And she was like, "I'll probably work at Walmart or McDonald's," and I'm like, "Okay, Abby, let's," it opens the conversation of you might need to make a little bit more if those are the goals, right? If you want to, I mean, I
Right.
don't think you can get a draft, but if somehow you can, you're going to need some more money, or even, to go on a safari to see a giraffe. Those are goals that require money. So it's not, yeah, money isn't the root of all evil or greedy or bad. It's a tool. And when we see it just as a tool and very neutral, these are productive conversations. They're setting our kids up for success where we don't have to feel as much pressure, I think, than as parents thinking, I'm going to have to pay for their way through school. I'm going to have to help them with the down payment. Like, these are some big stressors that parents carry and probably impact even like you're planning on having children or how many. Like, this is huge. So if we can teach them these skills, they can go out and do the stuff themselves, and we're setting them up for success, not setting them up for, constant us, giving them money all the time or things like that. Like, of course we can help them out along the way, but it's so great when we can see them succeed on their own.
Yeah, and to have a healthy concept of money, like you and I were discussing before the show, the unrealistic version of money that's out there on YouTube and other things that the children see these days,
Absolutely.
encouraging them to spend money that's really unrealistic, and they have no concept of it, nor can they until they learn. So it's important for us and responsible. It's part of our responsibility as parents. What unique writing techniques or storytelling approaches did you use to make complex financial concepts accessible and engaging to your broad audience? Because you've got adults and children.
Yeah. That's a good question. So, like, step 1 was probably me being like my finance mind. And so, if you would have got that version, it would have been so boring. It would have been like a finance textbook for adults and for children. So I had to do some like diving back into my own creative juices and figuring that out. So I had a writing coach that helped me. She would take me through like exercises that were completely unrelated to get that imagination going. And so for a kid's book, it was, I had the idea and what I wanted to do and like the concept of like, okay, how do we teach these complex concepts to kids? And she started kind of teaching me the power of just, yeah, play on words and the images too. So it was like, money doesn't grow on trees, she says in the book. Or she says, Mom, I thought you said money doesn't grow on trees, because that's us parents are like, that's our money doesn't grow on trees kind of conversation. So it's fun because it's kind of like going into a child's mind and them really seeing like a tree of money and us having to explain what we mean by that. So I do some of that in the kids book, hopefully to, help with some of those concepts. And then in my novel, it's still just as important because I wanted to write, like, my intention with writing this book was I wanted to create something that women felt like they were having a conversation with, like, a good friend about money. So something that felt really welcoming, comfortable, and fun, right? Like, when we think about times where we're getting together with our girlfriends, it's like easy, the conversation flows, we feel like we can be vulnerable. And that's what I envisioned for this idea of how can we like take on a big topic like money that oftentimes women feel very much like outsiders when it comes to and feel like they don't belong. So that was the intention and goal with my book. And so what I do throughout is share stories, like share my own personal stories and stories of women I've come across over the years. So I've been working with women and helping them with their finances for, like you said, 15 plus years now. And so I have lots of stories, and oftentimes, I mean, I comment on how everyone's unique and there's no sort of two people exactly alike, but some of the themes that come up in these stories women can really relate to. So like I was on a podcast the other day and she was saying, your story about Cynthia, obviously I changed the names in the book from, real people, but she said like Cynthia, who has a problem with actually spending her money that she's done so well saving. She's like, that's me. And I do that as well. And so it's hopefully sharing these kind of recurring themes I see from women that you can see yourself in. And then I talk about, what can you do then as a result? And at the end of each chapter, I have taking action steps, which I kind of create as like easy, light, homework. It shouldn't feel like homework at all. It can be, little things that you can do, but it's the actual how. Because I can talk about, the concept and you can say, yes, that's me. I do that all the time. But then the next step is, well, what do I do and how do I do it? So I want to actually accomplish that in the book where the person reading it, like readers really feel equipped to take action and know what to do or what I'm recommending if they see themselves in those situations. So I do try to use stories to make it, more relatable. And I think coming from female perspective and the stories of other women, that was my goal. And that's why, I wrote it for women. It's just that I think we can understand and these money conversations and concepts told in terms of like women's interests and what women are going through is so powerful. And the finance industry, because it's been very male dominated for so long, it sometimes misses that mark on just, the key is bringing more women in and having women have the conversations because they know best what women need to know and how they want to hear it. And so that's really why, like, I think it's an important book and it was important for, a woman to write a book for other women.
Absolutely. Yes. We need women representation and we need the voice of understanding, because men don't know what it's like to be pregnant. So, we can't, it's kind of hard for a guy to talk about pregnancy, even though we have male doctors, but
Yes.
So your own journey from witnessing financial struggles to becoming a financial expert, it's really, really, really inspiring because so many people out there struggle with overcoming those just mind blocks. And some of them are subconscious that they don't realize, could you share a pivotal moment or realization that set you on this path?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm trying to think. I think one pivotal moment was when I went on mat leave with my daughter. Um, I'd always said my intention was to work with women, but up until that point, I was working on a team with another advisor and it was a male. And, just by nature, again, it was like the business was quite male focused. I had all these ideas and he let me run with some of them, but I still didn't feel like I was really leaning into what I was meant to do. So I go on mat leave, have my daughter. And I was a single mom really early on with her. And so it's just like you're going back to work and you have this little person and you have this newfound, like, I need to really do what I was meant to do and what, I always set out to do. And that's when I like really heavily leaned into doing things for women. And I started then on my own at that point, focusing on working with women and having the events for just women. So it was, having a daughter and thinking, that what is it that I want her to know and teach her about being a financially independent woman and sort of taking some risks on yourself because that's what I was doing, diving in, a business owner and starting from scratch and things like that. But yeah, just so powerful when you have a child. It's just this like aha moment that you just want to do. It's not just you, right? It's not just about you anymore. It's about them and more to do with like, what was I meant to do and why am I, what is my purpose? And so that was probably the moment for me is coming back from mat leave after having my daughter.
Well, it was a very, very worth it, wasn't it? Very important. With the plethora of financial advice available today, because there is a lot,
There is.
what do you feel like sets your books apart and makes them essential reads for anyone seeking financial empowerment?
That's a good question. You're right. There's so much out there and I love that there is because there's a lot of resources then for people to tap into, but I think for mine what makes a difference is I try to write it for women at different stages of life. And so there's not like a specific age. Like I've had women, clients that are multi-millionaire clients that read this book and say they got something out of it, which is amazing for me. And then of course people just starting as well saying, okay, I'm really excited to get started. So I wanted to create something that was really inclusive for women at all stages, at any part of life, because there's this like almost like divide sometimes with finances where you think, well, I don't have enough money to get started investing, or I can't do these things. So I wanted to create a book where no one was left feeling that way. I wanted it to be, again, something that's fun, because some of these topics can get really boring and dry. Like I love the finance books out there, but like, again, it's because it's such an area of like interest for me, but I would say not everyone likes them, or it doesn't hold the attention sometimes because it can get really deep into like the financial jargon. So I wanted to hopefully keep the reader through the whole book and not have them feeling, almost like there's like at a loss or they don't know enough or something like that. Like it was all about inspiring. And that was really what I think sets it apart. And my actual like years of experience working with people, and not just like for a day or a few weeks. It's like I've had clients for like years and years and years that you've gotten to work with and see, like walk beside and see the progression of where they've been, where they've gotten to, some of the feelings that even come up along the way, and the challenges too. So it's almost like getting to see the full journey was so beneficial to write from that perspective. Because it's not like a one-time transaction. When I'm working with clients, it's a long journey. And I think for people to actually see the progress and the results and what can happen when they make money their thing. So I hope that's what differentiates it. Just making it fun, inclusive, again, like feeling like a light read. I don't want you to feel like, you have to have like a notebook by your side and be like taking notes the whole time. I want it to just, maybe by telling stories, that it just sort of clicks. And then you're like, oh, okay, I remember that. Or I read, about that in the book. And that now makes sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, as an author passionate about financial literacy, which you really definitely have to be passionate about this to get it across to people, but what are your future plans to continue making a meaningful impact in this field? And what topics or projects are you expected to explore next, do you think?
Yeah. So I have like a few more ideas for MoneyWise Mabel, that she can go on a few other journeys through, ideas of concepts that she's learning on about money. And then also I want to do one for a book for teens. I've kind of just started an
Mm.
outline for that one. So that's the next one. But it's the idea of like basically, graduating and entering adult years. And then it's like, what do you do when it comes to money? Because you feel like you're thrown into that adult world of money and finances. So I want to write a book specific for that age, because that's a really important pivotal time where you can develop some really great habits.
Yes, absolutely. And like we talked about earlier, it's so hard teaching kids because most of us use debit cards, not, there are a lot of people who don't use cash.
Yeah,
And
you're right.
so for us, even we like swipe, 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 right? And you don't realize until you actually live with cash and how fast it disappears when you start paying for things in cash, to kind of, I think it's a good idea to do that. If you don't do it all the time, do it sometimes. It
Yeah.
reminds you of, oh, I got to be more careful, or I really need to be more mindful of this. And I've got to teach my children to be so much more mindful of this, So we're just so excited for you to be here today, and that you've written these books, and that you're out there on a mission trying to help kids. It's so vitally important. And I know that I'm going to look at I'm going to read over it and see what I can do to help inspire in my own child, some things for him to be able to do, to be more mindful of it. If there's anything that you'd like to say to like a teenager, what would you say to them is the smartest thing they can do? Since you haven't written that book yet, but you probably have it in your head, maybe, what is a really important thing you'd like to say to them?
Just like the power of starting to save and invest early, because we have all those charts in the banks too of like, if you start putting away $100 a month, at this age, it becomes this. So I have to somehow, because we see the charts and we all know, what that looks like, but we didn't start. So it has to do with something to like, how do I get them to start? Maybe I haven't figured it out yet or how I'm going to get that across, but it's about starting early, taking action when they're really young, where it sometimes feels like they're not even making a dent or a difference, but it's such a huge impact when it's compounding and growing. So getting young people interested in investing, and so sharing that with young people is like getting started early. You don't need a lot of money to get started. You can get started with like $25, and so it's accessible for them. So young people starting investing.
Yeah, that's a great one. Well, listen, we are out of time today. Thank you so much for being here, and we'd love to have you back on. And thank you to our audience for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next time on another week on another episode of the Writers Corner Live Show. Thank you, Kalee, so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Writers Corner Live Show. 30 minutes of insightful author conversations with some of the biggest names in the industry, including award-winning authors and international indie sensations. Join us on the next episode of the Writers Corner Live Show.